I'm Jeff Sahadeo. I am the Associate Director of the Institute of European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies here at Carleton University. And on behalf of the Faculty of Public Affairs Emerging Perspectives Conference, I'd like to invite you to join us and to sit back and think about what we'll hear today during our plenary panel on the war in Ukraine and scholars at risk and students who have come here as well. So about a year ago today, our world changed when Russia invaded Ukraine. We watched, obviously, with horror at the events that unfolded and tried to do what we could to assist. And with the help of Carleton University, the Faculty of Public Affairs, and other faculties at the university, we were able to bring two scholars at risk to Carleton University. One of them is Dr. Ilya Kononov, who is the head of the Department of Philosophy of Luhansk Taras Shevchenko National University. He's the author of more than combined 230 publications, interviews, and media appearances. A very well-renowned scholar in his homeland and also in North America. We're delighted to have him here, though we wish that the circumstances could be different. And then Olha Sotska. I first met Olha when she was applying to the program, when she was locked in a dormitory in Turkey because of COVID. And now, of course, her and Ilya have seen their country devastated by Russia's war in Ukraine, their friends and loved ones attacked, people killed, houses destroyed, the list goes on. I won't say anything more now because I want to leave the floor to those who have been most affected. I'll also introduce Milana Nikolko, one of our faculty members, instructors at the European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies, who will do the translating as well for Dr. Kononov. So I'll start with Dr. Kononov, move to Olha Sotska, then we'll have a period of question and answer. And so, please.
Уважаемые коллеги, мне сказали, что я должен в течение 5 минут представиться и рассказать о том, о чем мне можно будет задать вопрос.
Okay, dear colleagues, I have just 5 minutes to introduce myself and brought my narrative in the way you can ask questions later on.
Я буду говорить вначале о своем опыте, об опыте человека, который попал в войну, и буду говорить также об опыте ученого, который эту войну изучал.
So I want to provide two perspectives: my own experience, the person who was stuck in the middle of the war, but also the scholar who is researching the war.
Война сблизи и война, как ее показывают по телевизору, это совершенно разные вещи.
So the closest approach to the war and the war from the distance of TV transmission or TV screen, and it's absolutely different perspective.
Впервые с войной мы встретились в Луганске в 2014 году.
First of all, I met the war in 2014 in Luhansk.
Но события в Луганске 2014 года и события, которые начались с массированной агрессии России против Украины в 2022 году, существенно отличаются.
Events in Luhansk in 2014 significantly different in comparison to the events of recent Russian invasion of Ukraine, started on February 24, 2022.
В Луганске смена власти происходила постепенно. И несколько раз ситуация могла измениться, если бы были соответствующие действия украинской власти. Последний раз такая точка перелома была, это бой за Луганский погранотряд. Это было 2 июня 2014 года.
situation in 2014 in Luhansk was absolutely different, and we saw few episodes of power and authority transition. There were few uncertainties who is going to take over. In the last episode, when separatists actually obtained control over the Luhansk, it was a battle around the
Пограничники.
there was the border, the battle around Luhansk border control. There's actually kind of a military division.
Мы жили недалеко от пограничной части и видели это все своими глазами.
So Ilya is actually reside close to this point when Luhansk security guards were located close to that battle.
Но при этом наш университет продолжал работать, мы читали лекции, и мы могли в окно смотреть и видеть снайперов, которые ходят по крышам наших общежитий и смотрят нам в окна, когда мы читаем лекции.
But the university continued to work, so Ilya remember this episode when he was delivering a lecture to the class and saw in the window snipers reside on the top of the buildings and watching the lectures.
Мы покинули Луганск в июле 2014 года.
In July of 2014, we left Luhansk.
Наш университет был эвакуирован в маленький город Старобельск.
National Shevchenko University of Luhansk was evacuated to the small city of Starobelsk in Luhansk Oblast.
Yes, Luhansk
North.
region. 2022 год – это другой опыт.
In 2022, it was absolutely different experience.
В 2022 году я моя жена почувствовали, что значит быть мирным жителем в современной войне.
In 2022, we have absolutely different experience. We felt that myself, my wife, we felt like we are citizens in absolutely different type of war, modern, contemporary, current war.
Современная война – это прежде всего удары артиллерией, ракетами и минимальное непосредственное столкновение воинских частей.
So contemporary war is mostly artillery attacks, bombarding, total shelling, and very few battlefields with military personnel.
Мы встретили войну в городе Бахмуте, о котором вы теперь все слышите.
So we were in Bakhmut when the war started. You know that location is very well now.
И я проснулся от непонятной тревоги 24 февраля. Я не мог понять, что происходит.
So I woke up in the morning of February 24th and I was not sure what's going on around. I feel uncertain, I feel troubled.
Это было раннее утро, где-то около 5 часов утра.
It was early morning, around 5 a.m.
Я проснулся и услышал, что вибрируют двери, вибрируют люстра, вибрируют окна.
I woke up because everything was vibrating. Furniture, windows, chandeliers in the house.
И я первым делом подумал, что началась война.
My first thought that war has started.
Дело к этому шло.
There was all circumstances leading to the beginning of the war.
Хотя до конца в возможность этого не хотелось верить.
We try to avoid this thinking, but we were not believing that the war going.
И мы месяц прожили в этом городе Бахмуте, уже после начала войны. И мы видели, что война постепенно разрывает социальные связи в городе.
So for one more month, we stayed in Bakhmut after the war started, but we also saw that the social connection, social fabric of Bakhmut being destroyed by war.
В городе начинали пропадать продукты, выстраивались огромные очереди за теми продуктами, которые привозили в город.
So at one point, the products and foods started to disappear from the stores. We see the line of the people on the streets waiting for the food delivery.
Огромные очереди выстраивались возле банкоматов.
Yeah, ATM, the huge queues to their ATM machines.
В одной очереди стояли военные мирные граждане.
Military personnel and Ukrainian citizens in the same line to get.
По городу регулярно наносились ракетные удары, и мы, если находились в доме, то просто слышали, как содрогается дом. Если на улице, то мы видели столб поднимающегося дыма.
So Bakhmut was constantly shelling by Russians in that period of time. So we heard disruption, we heard vibration most of the time, but you can see visibly when the artillery attacked the Bakhmut. See this dust here.
Мы видели танки в парке, видели военных, видели средства противовоздушной обороны, которые пытались сбивать ракеты, крылатые ракеты и другие ракеты, которыми обстреливали в это время Донецкую область.
So the tanks were located in the parks of the cities. We also see that artillery defense was also located all over the city of Bakhmut.
Гражданские лица в такой ситуации начинают восприниматься как лишний груз в городе.
So at this point, we felt like citizens were considered to be a burden for the military personnel, precisely because of the intention.
И власти начали усиленно требовать, чтобы гражданские город покинули.
So it was a call from Ukrainian authorities in Bakhmut to leave Bakhmut.
И мы из Бахмута уехали 1 апреля.
We left Bakhmut on April 1st.
Ну, я после этого, как ученый, занимался изучением этой войны. Я пытался проанализировать в целом особенности современной войны.
As an academic, I tried to understand the logics of the modern war.
Кроме того, я анализировал некоторые аспекты, связанные с этой войной. Это, скажем, украинских беженцев внутри страны и за ее пределами, за границей.
I also was analyzing different aspects of the war, such as migration and refugees inside of the country and outside of it.
Последняя моя работа по вопросам войны была связана с тем, что я получил из Министерства обороны Украины, меня попросили проанализировать эти документы. Это протоколы допросов членов ЧВК «Вагнер».
So my last job, I was actually approached by Minister of Defense of Ukraine. It was to analyze the protocols or transcripts of interrogation of Wagner's members. You might heard of private military company Wagner, Russian military company.
Если у вас будет интерес по какому-то из этих аспектов, в которых я компетентен, я, естественно, не компетентен во всех аспектах современной войны, но если вот по тем аспектам, которые я назвал, у вас будут вопросы, я с удовольствием отвечу на них.
If you have any questions regarding what Ilya mentioned, please do not hesitate to ask. But he said, I'm not kind of an expert on all models of the war, on all specific, but what I mentioned, please feel ask.
Olha, please.
So I will continue. My perspective will be completely different because when the war started in 2014, I was still a kid. I was studying at the high school. So I'm coming from city Vinnytsia. It's 2 hours away from the capital. And in 2014, my city became the major city for internally displaced Ukrainians. The famous Donetsk National University from Donetsk was relocated to my city, and a lot of students were relocated. So I had a chance to talk to a lot of students about their experiences. A lot of my friends are from Donetsk, and I saw the struggle from that point. Ukrainian authorities approached the relocation of the universities really seriously. They gave a lot of scholarships to students. For each specialization, there were like 3-5 places for students from the eastern Ukrainian regions or from Crimea, so that they will be able to study for free and get additional scholarships to cover their living expenses. So I came to Canada to study here as a graduate student in fall 2021, and I was lucky not to be in Ukraine at the moment when the war started. However, all my family is still in Ukraine, and they experienced horrors of the war. Some of my relatives are fighting in the army. Some of my friends, unfortunately, were not able to see the victory. It's really scary, and when you are staying abroad, you are not aware of all the things that are happening in Ukraine, which makes it even scarier for me, because sometimes I don't know what is happening with my family. Quite often there is no electricity. You know about blackouts. Just from the words of my parents, what they told me, sometimes they had electricity for 2-3 hours a day so that they would be able to cook. The situation got better as Ukrainian army is getting more weapons, so they are more effectively protecting the sky. But it depends, really it depends on the region, and it depends on the types of the weapons that Russia is using. Ukrainian army does not have all the necessary equipment to protect the citizens from all the dangers. My city, Vinnytsia, you probably heard about it. It was infamously attacked last summer in the city center, in the business center, and a lot of civilians died. It was a big shock for me because my parents working just near that place, and it was a lucky coincidence that they were not at that place at that time. Just happened so that my dad changed the shift, so he was not there, and my mom took a bus 1 hour earlier before the attack from that place. But after that situation, even though when I was in Canada at the moment the war started, I decided that I need to go and see my family, how they are doing. So I actually went to Ukraine last summer, the end of the summer. It is a really dangerous journey. It is possible to go to Ukraine, but it took me 3 days to get there. Because you never know whether there will be electricity to take a train. Maybe you will be stuck on somewhere in the middle of the field until there will be electricity. That's something that happened to me. I needed to wait. And buses are overloaded, actually. A lot of Ukrainians are trying to come back home, at least for some time, to see their loved ones. Since men are not allowed to leave Ukraine, a lot of women left, but a lot of them are coming back, at least for some time. So I went to Ukraine in the end of the August last summer, and I was able to see the scale of destruction and compared to be honest. It's just really painful, and I'm pretty sure that some of you maybe had a chance to attend the Unissued Diplomas exhibition last week. And what is even more scarier for me is that I was able to see familiar faces on that poster. Some of the students who were studying at the Donetsk, one student was studying at the Donetsk University. She was killed in the attack on 14th July, my city on the business. So that's how the war affected me personally. It affected my family. My mom she relocated to Germany for some time at the beginning of the war, but then she went back. And some of my friends, they are fighting in the army. Some are trying to support as volunteers. Some are going as volunteers to the eastern region so that they will help to relocate people. And besides all of these personal experiences, war also affected my research here. As I said, I firstly encountered the war in 2014 as a student, so it affected me so deeply that I developed interest in hybrid warfare. I wrote a couple of works about that back in Ukraine, and I decided that I want to develop this topic here at the EURUS. But I didn't know that the war will start and hybrid warfare will be no longer relevant to call what is happening in Ukraine right now. So I'm still trying to understand how I can approach my changing research interests, how I can develop the topic, and how I can best empower the situation, even though the access to sources in Ukraine are now very restricted. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer to my best knowledge.
Thank you, Olha and Dr. Kononov, for this powerful testimony and very personal reflections. And it's painful for all of us to hear these words, but it's amazing to see the resilience of yourselves and the people who surround you. Please, if people have questions, I certainly have some questions, but I'm happy to open the floor to any questions for either of our speakers. Let me start, and then first question is always the hardest. I think I wouldn't say what has surprised me the most, but still I'm amazed at the resilience of Ukrainian society, the bombs that have fallen, the things you've described, energy infrastructure that's been attacked. And I think what makes Ukraine very relevant to us is so many of us have family connections. We have friends there. For myself, I studied the region. I've traveled there. It feels like it's home. It feels like it's very similar to us. And it's hard for us to imagine sometimes how to live, right? How to survive day to day in the face of these attacks. And so I just wondered if you could comment on, when you think about it, Olha, you were there, or both of you were there during the war, how Ukrainians survive day to day, both in terms of the logistics of it and in terms of the psychology of it. When you know at any time you could be, bombs could fall from the sky, rockets could fall from the sky. Maybe you can start.
I'll start. So my perspective will differ a little bit because when I came to Ukraine, it was already a couple of months after the beginning of the war, so people started to adjust to the reality. And I was amazed by the fact that people were coping pretty well with that. Like they understood that they have today and now, and maybe there will be no tomorrow. So they are trying to get the best out of it. In between the air raid sirens, people are living normal lives. They are going to work. They are trying to support the economy, and they're trying to support Ukrainian businesses. What is the most important? Because most of the international businesses, they left Ukraine. You can't get most of the groceries. So a lot of things are locally produced. People are proud to buy that. People are supporting that. They're trying to lead normal lives. I was surprised by the fact that there are lots of kids. Like my city became one of the major places for refugees. So people are just enjoying their lives, but when the air raid sirens happen, there is no one. Everyone is just adapted to have the fast type of life that they are able to go to a safe place and hide for the time. Before attack happened on my city, people were not taking this air raid siren seriously. Only when the tragedy happened, actually, people started taking it seriously and started to fight. That's my perspective.
Я социолог. Я не склонен давать простые ответы на сложные вопросы.
As a sociologist, it's really hard for me to give a simple answer to the quite complicated questions.
Ситуация в Украине можно понять только если понимать характер войны, которая сейчас происходит на территории Украины.
To understand the situation in Ukraine right now, we have to understand the type of character of the war which happened.
Это тем более важно, что это облик не конфликта малой интенсивности. Вот с 2014 года в Донбассе длился конфликт малой интенсивности, которых в современном мире достаточно много.
So the contemporary invasion of 2022 provide us with image of not low intensity conflict. In 2014, it was in Luhansk, it was low intensity conflict, which could be found a lot in many places.
Сейчас мы видим широкомасштабную современную войну. И потому что происходит в Украине, мы вообще можем говорить об эволюции войны в современном мире и эволюции тех угроз, перед которым оказалось все человечество.
So what we can see right now in Ukraine, it's conventional large-scale war. And analyzing this model of the war, we actually can see where the dynamics of the war moving, generally speaking.
Причем пока война осуществляется конвенциональными средствами.
Right now, war is realized by conventional means and tools.
Но постоянно существует угроза применения неконвенционального оружия.
But there is also a threat, constant threat of engaging non-conventional weapons.
Я вот несколько аспектов войны и попытаюсь очертить. Первое. Современная война существенно стирает, нельзя сказать, что полностью ликвидирует, но существенно стирает разницу между фронтом и тылом.
So contemporary war demolished the separated lines between battle zone and secure place.
Но она полностью не стирает, я говорю, что она стирает, но и полностью не ликвидирует, потому что не было такого ощущения, что это полная ликвидация различия.
Okay, it's kind of
There's no front or rear anymore. So one.
Yes.
but not completely gone. The line is still there. There is a battle zone. There is a secure place, but it's not as visible or as decisive as before.
Ну, вот, скажем, войска Российской Федерации с самого начала, вот с первого дня, начали обстреливать всю территорию Украины. Первоначально нанося удары по военной инфраструктуре и аэродромам.
So Russian Federation, Russian military forces was starting shelling Ukraine on the first day of war. First, targeting the military base, aerodromes, airports in Ukraine.
Ну, вот, скажем, практически в первые дни удары были нанесены и по Краматорску, и по Ивано-Франковску. Это города, которые находятся один на крайнем востоке, другой на крайнем западе страны.
So on the first day of the war, Kramatorsk, which located in eastern part of Ukraine, but also Ivano-Frankivsk, which located on the farther west part of Ukraine, were attacked. Similar attacks.
С осени прошлого года война вступила в другую стадию. Российская Федерация начала применять военный террор против гражданского населения на всей территории Украины.
During the fall 2022, the war entered a new stage when Russian military become attacking right now civilian populations using military terror against the civilians all over Ukraine.
Я имею в виду обстрелы объектов инфраструктуры, прежде всего энергетической инфраструктуры.
I'm talking about attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure and energy infrastructure in Ukraine, precisely.
И это привело к тому, что, скажем, в Киеве неделями не было электричества у обычных граждан, и это было в период, в холодную пору года.
So it's resulted that even in capital Kiev, for weeks there were no power in the civilians' buildings.
Вот Оля рассказывала об ударе по Винницкому торговому центру. Это тоже один из примеров того, как подвергаются ударам гражданские объекты. Причем там был большой концертный зал, и там было много людей, которые погибли.
So Olga mentioned that in Vinnytsia, a civilian object was attacked. It's like store, right?
Business center and concert hall.
So now even civilian buildings now become a target for the military operation in Russia.
Поэтому это вот первая черта современной войны. И она ведет к тому, что в ходе боестолкновений потери с обеих сторон примерно равные.
So that's the first feature of the modern war. So in the battle, the losses on both sides are pretty equal.
Раньше атакующие всегда несли большие потери. Там 1 к 7 где-то эти потери исчислялись. В настоящий момент потери равные, потому что главной ударной силой в этой войне является артиллерия.
So before, in traditional conventional war, offensive forces were usually losing much more men's power, 1 to 7. In Ukraine, we can see that actually both sides are losing a similar amount of manpower because of massive artillery attacks in Russia.
Теперь еще один момент. Вот есть такое выражение «военное искусство». В нынешней войне про него, пожалуй, следует забыть.
So there is a saying, military art. We have to forget about this particular saying in the contemporary war in which now we evidence in Ukraine.
Настоящая война – это прежде всего использование военной техники, и это логистическое искусство. Вот Джефф о нем упомянул. И мы не наблюдаем в этой войне сложных каких-то решений, скажем, наступления, контрнаступления, охвата, использования различных других приемов, которые относятся к военному искусству. Современная война – это воздействие одной силы на другую. И главную роль тут играет именно огневая мощь в этой войне.
So, in traditional mode of military art, we see engagement of specific military techniques, logistics, complexity of offensive affair. In this particular example of Russian invasion of Ukraine, we see that domination of one force based on massive artillery attacks.
Теперь вот вторая черта, которую я скажу, я уже, если кто-то слушал мои выступления или читал, я уже об этом писал, война пришла из полей в города. Города стали главным театром военных действий.
So the second feature, which I explained in my recent publication, that the war moved from the battle zone to the cities. Cities right now the major arena of the military operation.
Это ведет к тому, что города разрушаются до основания.
It's resulted in complete deconstruction of the infrastructure of the city.
Поверьте, коллеги, вам это трудно представить. После боев остаются просто груды кирпичей.
It's really hard to imagine, but really in the end of the battle, all that you can see, this is just the piles of the bricks.
И вот страна, на территории которой идет современная война, несет колоссальные материальные потери. Колоссальные материальные потери.
It's resulted in absolutely colossal material loss for the country which been invaded.
И вот эти разрушения касаются прежде всего гражданского населения.
That's a fact, civilians mostly.
Вот вы знаете о колоссальных потоках беженцев в Украине.
Massive migration in Ukraine, you heard about it.
Так вот, беженцам с востока Украины просто некуда будет возвращаться после этих боев.
For the people who leave Ukraine from the eastern part of Ukraine, there is literally no way to return because the city completely destroyed.
Потому что просто городов, в которых они жили, как таковых, не осталось.
There is no city left, they're completely demolished.
Ну, вы, наверное, видели Мариуполь, Волноваху, Попасную, Лисичанск, Северодонецк, теперь Бахмут. Поэтому можете составить представление об этом.
You saw the pictures from Mariupol, Volnovakha, Popasny, Bakhmut, Lysychansk, so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Теперь вот еще один момент, о котором я хочу сказать. Это очень важный момент, наверное, о котором необходимо услышать жителям Канады, канадским гражданам.
Another important moment Canadian citizens, people in Canada have to hear about.
Борьба, которая происходит в Украине, это не просто борьба двух стран.
The battle in Ukraine, it's not just a battle between two countries.
В Украине происходит фактически мировая война, ограниченная украинской территорией.
In Ukraine, we evidence the world war, which actually happening on the territory of Ukraine.
Украина не могла бы так долго бороться, если бы не международная помощь.
Ukraine will not survive without international support for so long.
На настоящий момент в Украине уже практически нет работающей экономики.
The economy of Ukraine is in devastated stage.
Поэтому для победы необходимо, чтобы эта помощь не ослабевала, а наоборот усиливалась.
For the complete victory, we have to persist with the help of international community to Ukraine.
И эта помощь не должна закончиться вместе с войной.
This aid has to continue after the military battles will finish.
Причем сейчас уже необходимо думать о том, какой образ Украины необходим после войны.
Even now, we have to think what kind of image of Ukraine we aim in, what kind of Ukraine we aim to rebuild.
Вот те 10 миллионов беженцев, которые оказались за границей, могут вернуться в страну только если там будет высокотехнологичная экономика.
10 million people who left Ukraine during the war will come back if there is a high technology, if there is a sustainable economical production.
Если же Украина останется с разрушенными городами и с преимущественно аграрным сектором, то перспектив развития, а стало быть и перспектива возвращения беженцев у нее не будет.
If Ukraine will stay with destroyed city and predominantly agrarian sector of production, there are no perspectives for the people to return back to.
Ну и тут вот с этим связан еще один аспект современной войны. Масштабная современная война ведется с использованием, с использованием резервов открытой глобальной экономики.
So another third feature which Ilya is bringing to the modern large-scale war right now, using resources of the open world economy.
Это касается как украинской стороны, так и российской.
Both sides engage in that.
Да. Ну, об этом, если будут вопросы, мы продолжим. Я пока на этом ограничусь, чтобы это не перерастало в монолог.
Okay, so do you have some
We have time for one
questions?
very quick question if anyone has. Last question. Maybe I'll just ask very quickly.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
one audience question. I think you mentioned that university was transferred from one time, like basically they transferred the university to a different city once there was, it wasn't safe. I'd like to hear your opinion about whether you think a university can be sustained without infrastructure, without a location as a different place, or do you need to have a physical location? I mean, is it even conceivable to have a university that's just basically in a war zone without a building or a campus or something like that?
You want to try this? Just
Yeah.
2 minutes.
I'll
Наш
try
университет
that.
он спрашивает. Да. Please.
So of course it's difficult for universities. They lost most of their facilities, or they left it behind. But judging from the experience of my city, when the Donetsk National University was relocated to Vinnytsia, they were provided with the buildings. There were significant investments made by the local city council to give at least something. Over the 8 years, of course, the university, they never reached the level they had because their campus was awesome back in Donetsk and it was a beautiful territory. Of course, they were limited to what they had, but in 8 years, they were able to establish a significant basis that attracted a lot of students. So I would say they were able to start developing and maybe had even more perspectives in the future if Russia did not invade Ukraine. There were even some plans to build a new campus outside of the city and some discussions on which land lots can be given to the university.
2 minutes.
Ну, вот наш Луганский университет в 2014 году был крупнейшим провинциальным университетом Украины. В нем обучалось 31 тысяча студентов.
In 2014, Luhansk National University was the largest provincial university in Ukraine. 31,000 students were there.
Когда университет был эвакуирован в Старобельск, мы не ехали на пустое место. У нас в этом городе были корпуса. У нас там было отделение.
Okay, so when a university was evacuated to Starobelsk in 2014, they actually have facilities there. It was a small campus of Luhansk National University located there.
Кроме того, университет имел спортивную базу в Кременной, которую тоже начал использовать. И также университет договорился о релокации 2 факультетов в Полтаву.
So it was another facilities, athletics facilities, which part of the university was relocated. They've also managed to relocate some part of university to the Vinnytsia.
В 22 году наш университет построил большой корпус и кампус в городе Рубежное.
In 2022, university finished the large campus in Rubezhnoye.
Его должны были открывать 1 марта. Мы получили все пригласительные билеты.
It's supposed to be, celebration and opening of the new campus on March 1st, 2020.
Но уже в середине марта мы могли наблюдать, как через наш новый корпус стреляют танки.
So in the middle of March, we saw that through the new buildings on the campus, Russian artillery was shelling right through the buildings.
Так что не было такого, что у нас вообще не было кампуса, помещений. У нас даже была библиотека в Тарабельске с достаточно приличным количеством книг.
In 2014, they managed actually to even relocate some part of the library in Starobelsk.
Это в настоящий момент университет, конечно, оказался в очень тяжелом положении.
It's very hard conditions right now for university.
Теперь у университета личной библиотеки нет.
There's no library, of course.
Университет в Полтаве существует только на съемных площадях.
Okay, so some part of the University of Lugansk was relocated to Poltava, so they're renting some facilities there.
Мы стараемся сопротивляться обстоятельствам и надеемся вернуться в Луганск.
We're trying to resist all the obstacles and return back to Lugansk.
So thank you to everyone. I'm sure we could have continued this discussion for a long time, but Dr. Kononov and Olha are still here, and hopefully we'll be here for a bit longer, but hopefully we'll return to a peaceful Ukraine in the next year or two. In the meantime, we are delighted to host them. The Ukraine War Observatory, which is a website built through the Institute of European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies. If you just Google Ukraine War Observatory, we are working with our scholars to give the most recent accurate information. And I hope that you learned something from the talk, very powerful testimonials from Dr. Kononov, from Olha. Thank you to Milana for translating, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the conference. Thank you very much.